Manyalo a mangata a putlama ke tshebediso e mpe ya ditjhelete. Sena se bakwa ke hobane malapeng a mangata batho ba buisane ka tshebediso ena ditjhelete. Mmuhi kajeko re motse Kapa re etetse mme Catherine Wijnberg a ileng a ithuta tsena tsohle ka tsela e thata empa a nka thuto tseo ho fetola bophelo ba hae. Nna ka lebitso ke Lebogang wa Matjhedi o amohetswe lenaneong la rona la motlaututsu e leng Back from Zero, lenaneo le utlisetsang nalane ya Maafrika Borwa a ileng a phela jwale ka dinaletsane ba putlama empa ha morao moo ba lwana gagaulane molamo wa tshepi ba busetsa molamo sefateng hore kajeko e ba phela maphelo a itseng tjha. Mmuhi ho thwe a yantse ka mokukutwaneng mma yona ntsa le teng e tso sa hlomme re inwese ka nkgo ha re kopana le Catherine. Hi, Catherine.
Yeah, hi, Lebo.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Good, good. Would you tell us a bit about yourself? Who is Catherine?
Sure. Catherine, I'm a multifaceted person. I think in my essence, I'm a grower.
Okay.
I like to grow things. I like to grow myself. I like to grow people. I like to grow businesses. I'm an adventurer.
Let's talk about your life at the early stage. What was it like?
So I'm born in Zambia. I was born in 1958, before independence. So Zambia was then northern Rhodesia. And I really had a charmed life. I'm born in a small town called Ndola. And I'm number 4 of a family of 5. My last sister is much younger than me, so for many years I was the baby with 3 older brothers. And yeah, Zambia, it was a long time ago, so Ndola was a small town. But what actually happened is in that period, initially my brothers went to school in then Rhodesia, and then there was UDI in Rhodesia, and
yes.
So that was just not possible for us, and so then we were all sent to boarding school in England. So all of us, all 5 of us, ended up in boarding school in England. That was quite a culture shock, to go as a little barefoot Zambian kid into now an English boarding school. It was tough times. I hated it, absolutely hated boarding school.
Yeah.
But people tell me that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But then after boarding school, I decided to go to Edinburgh to study, to do a degree.
Wow.
And so I thought I'd go and study biochemistry. But in the first week in university, I realized that all the good parties were in the agriculture faculty. And so I changed to agriculture. It seemed much more fun. And in fact, it served me so well in life because it's a very broad-based degree. So I learned a lot about business, I learned about economics, I learned obviously about agriculture. But it was very broad-based and very relevant to Zambia. So I really loved it. And so I got a degree in Edinburgh. And then I decided I wanted to go on and study for a master's degree. I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to go and study at the University of Queensland in Australia, on the east coast of Australia. And so for 3 years I did a master's degree there in agriculture. And so after my master's degree I went back to Zambia, and I first got a job actually with a farmer who was quite innovative. He was looking to grow some new crops. He was not far from Lusaka. So he had a big farm. I think it's about 50 k's out of Lusaka, and so he employed me as a farm manager. And as the farm manager, I stayed in this cute little cottage in one corner of his farm. And then he said to me, that there was a young man also staying like about 5 meters from me. And he said to me, that this guy would just make sure that I was safe. And then it turned out that we met and fell in love, and then he became my husband. So we then married, and that was the start of our exciting journey together.
Ka pelo e tletseng tshepo, Catherine o qadile leeto la toro tsa hae tsa lenyalo le letle. Na ebe toro tse tsa hae tse di ne di kenyeletsa meralo e metla ditjhelete? Ha re fumane tsena tsohle, ha re kgutla. Ena ke Back from Zero. Lenaneo le utlwisang dipale tsa batho ba ileng ba fetola dikamano tsa bona le ditjhelete hore ba tle ba tsebe ho phela bophelo bo tjhatsi.
Normally, when two people meet, the first thing that they do is to set goals. This is what we want to achieve as a couple. One could be get married, and what else did you want to achieve?
I don't think that we were so focused on setting goals at that stage. But what we found is that we had this tremendous synergy. We love creating things. So from then, but also well into the future, whenever we traveled, our whole journey in the car was just about scheming some new business or some new idea. It was a very, very vibrant, exciting time because you had two young people who were inspired to create business, who were inspired with new ideas. And when you're young, you believe everything's possible. But I didn't start working with him. After we met, I left that job, and I actually got a job in town at the Farmers Union, which was called the Commercial Farmers Bureau at that stage.
Yes.
And so they employed me as their agricultural economist.
Okay.
And so my first job there, it was very interesting. That was actually the first time I made contact with small farmers, so with small business. One of my jobs was to help the small emerging farmers, particularly with their finance applications. And then the other part of the job, a very big component was that in Zambia at the time, the maize price was a controlled price because it was I don't know if you'd call it a socialist state, but basically the maize price, the producer price was controlled.
Okay.
So there was a set price. It didn't fluctuate according to the market. Your producers were paid a certain amount per ton according to what the government set. And then there was a specified markup. And then the maize meal was sold to consumers at a subsidized price. So and maize, as you imagine, in Zambia, it's like the driver of the whole economy because maize is a staple food. And so my first task at the Farmers Union was to re-look at the maize price.
Okay.
And so I had a look, and I did some interviews of commercial farmers, and I looked through their costings. And I decided in my wisdom that the maize price should be doubled. And I had all of the calculations to prove that. And so the next process was now to go to President Konda, and actually negotiate this new maize price. And my argument there was, the argument that I used with him is that if he doubled the price, there would be a significant increase in the planting of maize. And there was really a possibility that if he doubled the price, everybody who had an interest in growing maize would jump in and plant maize. And what really excited me was that would created a possibility that Zambia would be the first maize exporting country in Africa. So I persuaded President Konda. He agreed. And he agreed, and then I had to go then from there to cabinet. He says, yes, I agree, I'm happy with it, but you have to go and persuade cabinet. And so the next week I went. I think I was 27. I was like I don't know. Now that I look back, it was very, very young to be doing those, to be handling those negotiations. I was just so convinced that this was right. I think sometimes when you're just convinced that you have a solution that can make a difference, it doesn't matter who you meet. Well, for me anyway, it doesn't matter who you meet. If you're passionate and you believe that this is the right thing, you believe it can change a country. I mean, I really believe that could change a country.
I think that one of the core characteristics of her is integrity. She's brutally honest when she has to be, and she's not afraid to step up and be the enemy per se, if that's what's required of her in that moment?
You know, this is the thing about the naivety of youth. So there were unintended consequences. And the unintended consequences was that the doubling of a producer price actually was one of the pushes that pushed Zambia into hyperinflation. So it was in actual fact was an unwise decision. And because what happens is that if it's the staple, if the whole economy moves on the maize price and you suddenly double it, the kick-on effect is this thing of hyperinflation. And so what happened is that as a result of the hyperinflation, or one of the ways to control the hyperinflation, the World Bank said they're going to change the way you access dollars. You had to apply to this committee, and they're going to change it from this committee to being an open auction. And so it was a very radical change. And by the second auction, my husband and I were in business.
Okay.
And what we'd seen is that we'd spotted a gap. So we'd spotted an opportunity to actually bid on the auction for foreign exchange and start a business importing products for the farming community. So importing tractors, importing vehicles, importing spares, chemicals, seeds, all of those things for the farming community. And so I left the job with the Commercial Farmers Union, and my husband and I started this import business, bidding for foreign exchange.
It sounds like something very big. Were you ready for it?
We had no idea what we were doing. We had absolutely no idea. We were clueless. We were completely clueless. So we had like a customer base, if you like. We had a customer database, and we had this passion, and we'd seen an opportunity. If you like, it's the iconic entrepreneur's story, is we saw a gap in the market and we just jumped in. So what we did is we actually sold the business in Zambia and we moved to South Africa. And the reason was that we wanted to be the supply side. So we were then the suppliers into Zambia. And so we then came down and started very small, working from home. We worked from home. We had a small premises in Parkmore. And then eventually we moved into a big premises in Midrand. So we actually run our operations from Midrand. Had a big trucking business. So the import-export business kind of started to expand. So it was doing very well. We were importing from Japan. We were importing a little bit from the UK, and we were exporting back into Zambia, into Botswana, and sometimes a bit further afield. And then what we realized is that we didn't want to be reliant on other people's transport, so we started a transport business. And we then had farms, because once you're a farmer, you're always a farmer. And so we'd really grown into quite a big business. But from us as a family, life was good. We had a beautiful home. We had horses. We had 3 children by now. We had I think we had a good life. We were very blessed. All of these businesses were things that my ex-husband and I had built and grown together. And then just after my last child was born, he said to me, "It's fine, why don't you step back from running the business?" He would carry on with it, and I could now retire. And I didn't particularly like that idea. Because
I was about to ask you that if you're comfortable with all of that.
Yeah, no, I wasn't comfortable with that. I felt a bit affronted, actually, because we built this together, and now he figured that he could go ahead and do it on his own. So I was a bit affronted by that. But I said to him, "It's fine." I said, "If you want to go ahead on your own, that's good." We obviously, as 2 strong personalities, had quite often had a few tussles. So I would make suggestions and he would ignore them. And so sometimes there was definitely a bit of conflict. And so the idea was that for one of us to proceed and to continue with the running of those businesses, which he then did. And then I went and started an apartment hotel. So I had an apartment hotel, and he was then running the import-export business and the transport business.
You just said, after your husband had told you that you need to stay at home, you said it was fine. What qualified that fine? Was it trust, or is it something that you thought he was able to handle the business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I felt it was important for him to do what he believed in. So for him to proceed and to manage the business on his own.
Where does that come from? Is it because you genuinely trusted him, or was it because the two of you are married?
I think it's quite difficult to dissect that. I think there's definitely a point where if in a marriage situation, sometimes you go to a point where you just have to say it's okay, just let it be. I don't think at that stage was I afraid that he was not going to manage it well. No, that didn't occur to me at the time. I was irritated that he felt that he would be able to proceed without me. That I felt that there wasn't an acknowledgement of my role in him going forward on his own. But maybe that I wrote it down to ego rather than lack of trust.
I can understand now he's handling the business.
Yes.
Alone. All right. How did that go?
It didn't go well. It didn't go well at all. What happened was that the business had been going through a rapid expansion. So particularly he'd been purchasing a lot of trucks. So he'd been growing the trucking. So in other words, he borrowed more than was wise. So he borrowed more than he could repay. And at the same period, the interest rates became insane. They were over 25%. I think they went up to 28%. He came to me just before Easter I think it was 97, to say that actually the business was not recoverable and that he was going to go into liquidation. And he signed for voluntary liquidation. And that was the first time that I realized that things really were serious. And so in a very short space of time, he signed for voluntary liquidation, and then everything really wrapped up and crumbled very, very fast within a matter of weeks.
How much are we talking about here? You're talking about debt, you're talking about all sorts of things. How much money are we talking about here?
We're not absolutely sure what the final shortfall, what the final debt was, but you're probably talking around about a 10 million rand debt. Yeah. I'm not sure of the amount, to be perfectly honest, but that's the kind of number that we're speaking about. Yeah. In a matter of weeks, I went from being married, with a business, with a house, with a car, and being, a Mrs. Somebody, to having the clothes on my back and my 3 children. So in this period, my ex-husband left the country. So he liquidated and then left the country, and we were left behind with the sheriff coming to the house, this car, that car, this house, that house, really going from here to here in a very short space of time. And that was a very, very scary period.
Qetellong Catherine o iphumane bokamoso ba hae bo le ka mosing, a le mong a sena lekeno, lehae, mme a le bana ba bararo. Re a o amohela. Ena ke Back from Zero. Lenaneo leo batho ba buang ka mathata a bona ditjhelete. Le hore e ka ba kgonne jwang ho hlola mathata ana hore ebe ka jeko ba phela maphelo a phethahetseng.
Were you married in community of property?
No, I was not married in community of property. But in fact, what had happened is that because when we first started the business, I'm not South African, so I was a resident. And so where we first started the business, it made sense that my husband's name was on all the documentation. And in fact, we just proceeded on that basis. So never imagining that there was going to be any downside, everything just was in his name. So even the apartment business, all of those apartments were in his name, all of the property was in his name, all of the cars, everything, every single asset was in his name. So it meant that when he liquidated, everything that we had built up together was lost. So then I ended up with nothing.
You had creditors coming to you. You were not married in community of property.
No.
What were they looking for?
They were looking for their money. They were looking for their money from me. So it was very interesting because when they phoned me to threaten me, my answer was, but I don't owe you anything. I'm not, it's not my debt. I said, it's my ex-husband's debt. But the other thing that came up that I didn't know, and most people don't know, if two signatories on a credit card, each person is liable for the debt. Even if the first person has been spending on the card and the other people just have it in their pocket, they never use it. In the case where there's a debt owing, all of those people are equally liable. And that was also really shocking because then the bank was chasing me for money that quite a substantial amount of money that I'd had nothing to do with. And that was for some while, for a year or so, that they were after us. And then in fact the manager, he got a lawyer and they pushed back and the bank backed off and they stopped chasing us for that. But I mean, it was certainly something I think most people are not aware of, and I certainly had not been aware of it at all. I figured if it wasn't me spending the money, I'm not liable, but it's not like that at all.
I believe one of your biggest challenges was to manage the transition from having all of that and close to nothing. Now, I'm bringing back to the issue of the kids. How was that, carrying them from having everything and to the space where you were?
It was a difficult time also because you do try to protect your children. I mean, your children have gone from being at a good school and having everything, having horses, being well off, to now, for the first time in their lives, having to contemplate that dad was gone, their home was gone, and life was very different. And I think as a mother, definitely a lot of my thought was about how to try to make that transition easier for them and trying to keep a safe space for them, but also then trying to get my head around now what next? You know, you have nothing. How do you get up? How do you get up and start again? Yeah, it was a very trying time.
At some point, you had to confront yourself. You had to look around you and say, what is going on here? This is the point where you are at the zero ground. How did that turn out for you?
I think the 0 point for me was realizing that, actually terrifying, that I was a woman alone in a not very secure house with 3 daughters. And the thought that people now knew that and were using that vulnerability to threaten me, my physical safety and that of my children, that was really terrifying.
In everything that you were going through, did it in any way affect your self-esteem?
Somebody asked me the other day, how was it with your friends? What did your friends think? Did they support you? And the reality is that a lot of our friends just got a fright and stepped back. Yeah. Because up until that point, we'd been the ones that helped everybody else. We were kind of like, people saw us as the success story, the happy couple, the happy, successful couple, the ones that maybe people admired or they wished that they had a life like that. So now you have a divorce, so immediately that threatens anybody who's married, because then you start to think, my word, if they didn't make it, how can we make it? So there's already a fear around that. And then secondly, to go from being successful to having nothing. People don't like to hang around people that have got nothing. People don't like to hang around people that are failures. They always want to be amongst the success stories. So there was definitely this sense that it was as though my life exploded. So it was as though literally my life evaporated. I like to say I woke up, I kind of went to sleep one day with all of those things, married, business, all of that. And then I woke up one day and it was all gone. And so on those dark days, when you wake up and and everything seems impossible. If you're a mother and you have children to support, there's no option but to keep going, because you can't hide, and it doesn't work to hide amongst that stuff. But really, the thing that kept me going was that I was a mother.
Yes.
You can't lie in bed feeling sorry for yourself. You actually just have to get up. And that, in fact, over many years, because we're just talking about a particular period that was very difficult, but there are many years that were difficult. And in all of those years, the fact that I was a mother, the fact that my children relied on me in order to support them, meant that I would, for my children, I would walk through hot coals. So it was always the thing that got me up and got me through the stuff.
I particularly remember, because my father used to live in Zambia at the time, just after they separated, and we used to go and visit them, me and my sisters. And for a long time, I was convinced they were going to get back together. You know, it's that naive young child perception. And I honestly thought that they were going to get back together, and I was convinced. And only in retrospect did I realize that, you know, my poor sisters, who are older and really going through the reality of things, had to sit there listening to me with these ideas. It was hard at first. I think also because I really, really admired and loved my father, and I still do. It was particularly difficult having to leave your one parent to go and see the other parent, because there was always a sense of loss. Whether you were with dad or you were with mom, you always felt that one was missing.
So recovery doesn't happen overnight.
Yes.
You know, the thing is that when times are tough, times just are tough. You can manage your attitude, but sometimes it's really hard. You don't want to get out of bed in the morning, you know. I remember one time, in fact, my kids went to visit their dad, and I came back from the airport, and I felt really bereft. So now it's this thing, I've lost everything, and now my children are not with me. And so I really had this sense, it was a real moment of saying, how low can you go, kind of thing. And I got in the bath, and I didn't want to get out of the bath. I think I was in the bath for ages. And then something happened to me when I was lying in the bath. I had this thought that everything is about attitude, and that you can actually imagine yourself to be on holiday in the bath. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And I lay in this bath for a couple of hours, and I actually recreated for myself this world that I wanted to be in. I created myself a beach holiday. And I lay in the bath, and I tried to imagine what are the feelings that we have when we're on holiday. What are the feelings that we have when times are really good? And I have to say, I had a holiday in that period. I was able to recreate this sense of life being good. And that for me was a bit of a turning point, because there was this understanding that you actually, the way that you are in the world, the way that you believe things, actually makes things happen. And thereafter, I think I took a bit of courage and just realized that everything is within me, and it's up to me to change things around.
Catherine o tshola letswalo mme o roha ba teng ho tobana le bokamoso ba hae bo botjha. Ikutlwele ka ho feta re kgutla papatsong.
Re a o amohela. Ena ke Back from Zero. Lenaneo leo batho ba buang ka mathata a bona ditjhelete, le hore e ka ba kgonne jwang ho hlola mathata ana hore ebe ka jeko ba phela maphelo a phethahetseng.
Let's talk about the environment. Johannesburg. Was it helpful being in Joburg?
So, yeah. I actually left Joburg a year after all of this. So I lost everything, and a year later I moved to Cape Town. My family is very important to me. My family was very supportive. So in times when there was no money coming in, I was very lucky because my parents did help me. So they were able to help me to put food on the table. They were also at a later stage helped me to put a deposit on a house. So I had that support. They say that thing is when times are tough, you know who your true friends are. So there were a handful of friends that were really supportive. Then when I was here, I tried to start a couple of businesses, and at that point I really had this sense that I'd been part of a couple. I'd been part of a business pair. You know, my husband and I were very well matched in business. He's very much a kind of crazy ideas person. He always thought everything was possible. He was always he was a bit of a gambler. And I was always the one that just kind of held things back. So we made it was a very good business arrangement, business partnership. And so then when I came to Cape Town and tried to start everything, it was like I was half of that. Yeah. And I struggled with a few business ideas for a couple of years, and nothing worked. It just nothing worked. It didn't matter what I did, I touched it, just didn't kind of gel. And then I decided, let me just get a job. Let me at least know by how much I'm broke at the end of every month. Yeah. You know, let me just, because then I can plan. I got kids to feed, I can plan, let me just go and get a job. And so I took a job in Cape Town at the Craft and Design Institute, and settled down. Life kind of settled down. The kids were in school. Yeah, life was starting to feel, at least the balance was back. Life was getting onto a steady.
Understandably so, if you have lost everything in life, provided you did not own much in the past, now you are in Cape Town. Now you're starting to own things. You're buying things for yourself. Everything, your husband is not here, this is just you. Take us through that feeling. How does it feel?
One of the things that really sticks in my mind is the first car that I bought. There's something incredibly sweet in having purchased that entirely on my own, and for that car being in my own name. It was my first asset. In fact, it was actually my first asset ever in my name. And there was a great sense of achievement. There's something, I still think about that car. It was, maybe it was the transition point. It was this beginning of the evidence of recovery. It was very sweet to buy that. In all the business dealings that I'd had with my ex-husband, the one area that I felt I lacked was financial understanding, financial management. I was very good in operations. I was very good at, there was many things that I did in the business, conceiving of ideas, you know, rolling out development, rolling out growth. But the one area I felt really clueless about was in the finances. And I thought, let me do my MBA and let me really master this finance thing. And so I did. I studied an MBA through Henley, which is a British business school. And halfway through that, I said, you know, I'm not really happy, and I'm not designed to be employed. I was working in town at the time, and I was feeling frustrated. I was feeling unrecognized and unrewarded and underutilized. So I had this fear that I was going to end up as an old lady covered in dust, having achieved nothing in life. And I realized that really there's something more in me, and there's something more for me to do. And I set myself a challenge. I said, what is it that one person can do to make a difference? And out of that, I conceived the business Fatola. Utilizing my skills in order to help other people to succeed, I managed to secure one contract and one client. And so what I did was that I left employment with a computer and a client and an idea, and I opened the office at home. So it was just me initially working from my lounge. And I slowly built a team, still working from home, brought in some assistants, and just slowly grew the business from my lounge.
Fatola started literally in Catherine's lounge in her house, and we worked together initially. I was working from home and going in a couple of days a week into the office. And today, we have a team of 20 plus people on site. We have probably 30 mentors nationally, a huge network of partners. And this is really testament to Catherine's vision. When the business started, I think Catherine always had a clear picture in her mind as to what she wanted to achieve. It was never going to be something that was done on a small ad hoc scale. And I think that now it's sort of the rewards of all her hard work are paying off, and justifiably so.
Can we go into details about your business on day to day? What is it that you're doing in your business? How do you help these entrepreneurs?
Yes.
Do you have a program that runs? Or?
Yes, okay. The name actually means change in Sotho. It's about change. So we talk about changing people's lives for the better forever. What we do is that we find businesses, entrepreneurs with really high potential, good, strong, resilient people, and we provide them with the support to put good business fundamentals in place, and then help them to empower them and put them on a trajectory where they can succeed into the future.
Obviously, you were responding to something. What was that you were responding to?
So I set myself the challenge as to what it is that one person can do to make a difference. And I realized in looking at that challenge that I was quite unusual. So I was a woman with a very wide, a very extensive experience in starting and growing businesses. I had had businesses in 5 different sectors and in 3 different countries. And I realized that was a capability that not many women have. I think women generally, if you look at the women leaders in business around the world, there are very few. And that is not because women are incapable, but because women hold themselves back. There's a great book called Lean In, and it speaks to that. And so it's an American book. And it speaks, even in America, about how women subconsciously hold themselves back. And we see that in the world.
I think the challenges that women face are mostly personal. I think as women we deal with a lot of personal baggage that we drag around with us. Yes, of course there is, when you're a woman in a male-dominated industry, certainly there are those challenges. But I think a lot of the challenges that women experience are actually their personal baggage that they are dragging around with them. It's a lack of confidence, Can I be here? Am I allowed to be in this space? Can I hold the space?
But in South Africa, in Africa generally, we have another layer. And that is because we come from quite a traditional history. And that makes it even more difficult for a woman to succeed. So a woman to rise up and maybe be more successful than her husband, or to be making very strong decisions and taking a leadership position it doesn't sit well with many of the traditional beliefs and the traditional cultures. So what we find is that we have to provide extra support to black women entrepreneurs.
Will I be correct if I say Fetola actually helps you to heal?
Yeah, it's very interesting that you say that, because one of my motivations was, in fact, as some sort of a healing process. We talk about empowerment. It's such a word that we love, particularly in South Africa, people that are empowered, empowerment this and that. But empowerment, in my belief, is only true empowerment if you are in control of your finances and you're in control of the money that you're putting into your pocket. And what better way to do that than to do it through entrepreneurship? So you control the money that comes in, and you also are there to also help other people to control theirs. So definitely.
Leetong la hae la bophelo bo botle, Catherine o ile a kopana le mathata a mangata, mme empa o ile a ithuta ho itseng mathateng ana, mme o tla re hlaba malotsana ha re kgutla papatsong. o boetse back from zero moo batho ba pepesang di tsa bona tsa maeto a ditšhelete go tloa katlehong ya bona o fitlhela ba putlama mme ba tsoa maatla gore ba boele ba fumana katlego ya bona gape.
Now, what are some of the valuable lessons you learned in a relationship when it comes to your finances?
Yeah. I have to say that in all of this, one of the things that I've learned about managing one's finances is that you as an individual need to be in control of that. That often rubs in a relationship, particularly when a woman wants to have a handle on her money, and she's with a man who maybe feels that it's a male domain. I'm in favor of very equal relationships. So very equal, where there's equal power in the marriage and equal power in the relationship, and that often relates to money. And money is itself a relationship with your own power, your own inner power. And so when we are not in control of our finances, we have basically given away our power to the person that is in control of the finances. So my suggestion to people, men and women, is when you go into a relationship, be open from the first instance about money. Don't leave money as this hush-hush thing that you're not going to talk about. Be honest about it. It is the thing that keeps the wheels moving. So find ways to be open about the management of money, and find ways where you equally are in control either of your own individual money or have equal say in what happens to your joint finances.
How would you describe money today?
Yeah, that's a great question. If I look back in my previous life, I had this saying I would often make this saying, and that was, money's not important to me. And it's only when you have no money that you realize that that is just simply not true, and that money is very important. So now I'm really of this believer that money is important. I don't worship it, and I don't work for money. I work because I'm passionate about what I do. But money is important, because money is a reflection of one's self-worth. Think of it like this: if you went for a job interview and you were feeling really good about yourself, and you knew that you were good at your job, and you knew your value, you're going to demand a salary, a high salary. But if you're not really feeling confident, and you're kind of feeling that maybe you're not really deserving it, you're going to accept a lower salary. And it's the same just in life. We have this kind of inner wealth measure. And and so part of being successful is observing that in yourself, and everybody has a different point. But understanding that in yourself, and understanding how that translates into your self-confidence, and then through self-confidence into your bank balance. You never know the future, but you just need to be confident that the future will be safe. Whatever journey you take, that it's okay. Because if I think, when I was growing up, and all through these rather crazy twists and turns I've had in my life, I always knew it would come full circle. I didn't know doing what, I didn't know how, and I still don't know how my life is going to end up. But I always had this confidence that it would come full circle and everything would be okay. My greatest gift was losing everything. Without a doubt, it was like going through a burning fire. It was a burning of the old, a complete loss of the old, and through that painful transition, really this, what they call the rising of the phoenix. And in it, the person that I became was somebody who, for the first time, took myself seriously. So before that, I didn't really appreciate any of my talents. I wasn't really fully utilizing them. I was a passenger in life. Yes, I was growing businesses, and yes, I was doing good work alongside my husband, but I didn't really unleash my full potential. So the beauty of having lost everything and the beauty of being a single parent was that I had to take myself seriously. And for the first time in my life, I realized I have capabilities, but also this incredible gift of being able to grow other entrepreneurs and to grow other people and to open other people's lives up and help them to reach their potential. And if I hadn't lost everything, I wouldn't have done that. I would probably been a passenger for my whole life. So it's my greatest blessing to have gone through this.
Catherine, I believe that your story will change millions and millions of South African women. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lewa.
Batho ba bangata ba ka dumelana le tsa bophelo ba Catherine ka hore mathata a mangata o re tobanang le ona a tliswa ke ho hloka taolo ya ditjhelete tsa rona. Ho toba taba phatlantshosho, Catherine o sena dikamano le tjhelete ya hae nakong eo lenyalo la hae le felang. Empa le ha o le jwalo, ho sebetsa ka thata, boikitlaetso ha mmoho le melawana e mmalwa e ileng ya mo thusa, o ile a ikahela bophelo bo botjha. Ho feta moo, o ile a tsepamisa matla a hae ho thusa ba bang. Ka nnete bona ke bokgabane. Bekeng e tlang re utlisetsa mohale e mong a ileng a tobana le mathata a ditjhelete. Empa ha morao ho moo, a iphumana a le ho back from zero. Ho fihlela re kopanang hape, hai phaphathwe.